Welcome into the Trevor Staub Show, episode number 35. Today we are doing Tour Championship Bracketology. We got the Tour Championship this weekend, and we're going to be going through the bracket. And for that, we have a very special guest, which is Dion Arlyn, one of the brains behind Mando. So as you know, my specialty is certainly making predictions more based on my gut, more than anything. But Dion has actually got the statistics behind his picks. So we're gonna talk a little bit about Mando, and then we're gonna go into bracketology, go through the bracket, make our picks, and hopefully give some helpful advice. But let's hop right into it. All right, we welcome on our guest for the show this week. We're doing our bracketology episode, going through the bracket. So I figured, why not get somebody who might know a little bit more about how to make strategic picks here? So we have Dion Arlyn here, former Discraft pro, former distance champion, want to mention that, and one of the minds behind Mando, one of the, I would say, the leading statistic provider for disc golf. Thank you so much for joining the show, Dion.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, Trevor. Thank you. Yeah,
so I want to start, getting a little introduction into you, starting, with your pro disc golf career. Just kind of give everybody a little brief introduction into, how you got started in disc golf.
Yeah, so I'm from Corvallis, Oregon. I ended up going to Philomath High School, which is just west of Corvallis. And if that sounds familiar, it's because you're a fan of Nate Sexton. That's who I went to high school with. His younger brother, Colin, was in my grade, and we were good friends. So we grew up playing Ultimate, or they had grown up playing Ultimate, and then they taught me Ultimate in high school. And then summer before my junior year in high school, Colin took me out to the course, and I was hooked. So we all started playing from there.
Awesome. Yeah, so you obviously you had a pro career there for a while with Discraft as a member, but you're actually I think the first time I saw you pop up was in a Discraft distance tutorial video. I think I looked today, it has like over 500,000 views now, but just seeing you rip shots up the hill at Toboggan Course. So talk a bit about your distance career and like that experience winning the distance title in 2010.
Yeah, so throwing far was something that I always admired, and the role models for me as a young player were players like Avery Jenkins, right?
Yeah.
He was going to U of O, so I got to compete against him and see him in person a few times at tournaments in Oregon, and being able to throw far was the thing that I sort of enjoyed the most about playing disc golf. So I worked really hard for hours and hours and hours, many nights a week in the first few years of my career. And eventually was lucky enough to go out to the Big D in the Desert competition in Vegas and had a great set in the finals. And, I think I threw something like 731 feet in the finals and ended up winning. So it was incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we were able to have David Wiggins out here a few months ago, and we got to see him throw one. I think when he was here, he threw one on flat ground, like 650, 670, somewhere in that range. And like watching the disc fly that distance was just like so bizarre to me. And I heard your record as 731, and I was like, oh my goodness, like that's like even further than that was. So that's certainly a crazy accomplishment. So the past few years, Mando has kind of popped up, and you've been one of the big people behind that, one of the brains behind that operation. Disc golf for years was really needing somebody to provide more statistics, just to give context to things that are happening within the sport, provide storylines. Just talk about how Mando kind of got started in the first place, how you got involved, and what the goal and the mission was behind that program.
Sure. So in 2020, in the pandemic year, I ran for position on the board with the PDGA. I was working from home. I felt like I had a good work-life balance, so I wanted to do something to give back to the sport. And running for the PDGA board seemed like a good choice. There's 17 candidates that year, and I did not get voted in, obviously. But from there, I was thinking about all of the ways that we could improve disc golf. And I have a skill set that I developed through sort of my professional career in the financial space. in looking at technology, data, leveraging data, trying to make better decisions using the data that's available, etc. So figured that we could probably do that in disc golf. And I was on Smashbox one night, talked about having a site that you could do like head-to-head competitions, or you could look up stats and research players with a little bit more ease than what we have today, or at the time. So I was on that show. Evan Kearns, the other co-founder, tweeted me something like, I want to do an MLB reference site, kind of like what Dion was talking about. I messaged him, and a few other guys chimed in. Hans Anderson, our other co-founder, being one of them, who coincidentally doesn't use Twitter and just
Oh,
happened to randomly be on Twitter that day
wow.
and get the call. And so we all pulled together on a call and talked through what we'd want to do, if this was a pet project, if it was just for fun. And, after a few months, essentially came to the conclusion that, no, this should be a business. We should really make a go of it. And this is something that's going to add value to the sport. So we went all in.
Yeah, well, and it's certainly, just, if you follow Stat Mando on Twitter, if you don't, you really should. There's a lot of numbers being thrown out there that you just wouldn't expect. You don't really realize. What is when you're digging for statistics, I've always thought this, across all the sports, if you follow like ESPN stats and info on Twitter or Instagram, you see, these crazy statistics get pulled and you're thinking to yourself, like, I know this is somebody's job, but what are they even looking for within the data to pull these things? What does that process look like for Stat Mando? Because obviously, you have your database, but when you're looking for like tweets that are going to grab people's attention, stats that really stick out to you, what does the process look like finding those?
Yeah, so I think the first thing you have to have is some expertise within the domain. So you need to know about disc golf or be disc golf minded or be a fan of sports, right? So all three of us are. Evan in particular is he's the one who really leads the charge in finding those really interesting stats. So you have to have that, and then you have to have the data. And so we worked through accumulating all of the results data from the PDGA, and since then had worked with them to make sure that was all good. So just cover our bases there.
Right.
And what we do is sort of trust your gut at that point, right? Maybe you watched a tournament, or maybe you saw something happen and a thought will pop into your head and you go, I wonder if there's anything there. So you'll go to the data, you'll pull it up, you'll start looking at it, looking for odds and ends, and then when it kind of clicks, you go, oh, wow, that's the first time that ever happened, or, oh, holy cow, he's beating him by that many strokes, So whatever the sort of initial thought is, you just go research. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's not, but it might lead to more other exciting thoughts.
I kind of understand that train of thought. I think you guys do an excellent job pulling those statistics, and they always kind of surprise me. Some of them are really jaw-dropping because I always think there are stories in the numbers that you just can't see them until it's right in front of your face and you really can realize it. So going forward with Stat Mando, obviously you have a great resource. It's clear that, the Disc Golf Network and the PDGA, they want to collaborate because you have something that they don't. What do you think the business model is going forward for, being a statistic-based company? You have this database. Is the goal hey, let's keep building this thing, maybe get absorbed one day, or we want to stay independent and almost kind of contract out? What does that look like going forward?
Yeah, so when we went to the drawing board as far as how we want to become a viable business, the first thing that we felt would be a good play is to put all of the research and analysis that we have to use in a B2B model. So, me being me, I know a lot of people within the disc golf world, was able to sort of make those contacts and pitch them, hey, working on this thing, we've got some cool information, would love to help you with your product. So, we're the research department for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, effectively. And as they do their broadcasts and events, we're coming up with stats and piping them into the booth so they can use them for their broadcast product. So that would be sort of the first way that we've monetized that. So we have a relationship with the Pro Tour, we get paid for that work. But it's sort of the value proposition of making their product even better, right? So it's mutually beneficial. And it also helps us sort of strategically working with media companies, and we send stats over to Jomez, and Big Jerem uses those, send them over to GK Pro and Gatekeeper, and they get used throughout their post-produced work. Anytime that we get said on air or referenced on air, that's marketing for us. So that visibility is really important so people can learn who we are and start to grow a brand. And then in the future, what you're going to see is us creating some products for the consumers. So we'll have a B2C model where we have maybe some sites and pages where fans and players can engage, and we've got some cool things planned for next year for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I certainly look forward to seeing what the future holds. So one last thing about Stat Mando, the name Stat Mando. I've kind of always been curious, where did the name originate? What was the process behind thinking that name up?
Yeah, we had a really fun naming brainstorming over a couple of weeks. We, knew we were a data company, and we knew that it would probably manifest as stats for sports, right? So that's sort of the sweet spot. And we wanted it to be something that was really specific to disc golf, right? Mando is not a word that you see out in the public very often. It's, it's short for mandatory, obviously, and there isn't a lot of mandatory symbology out there in other sports or in even just the day-to-day life. So it's really unique, and it's something that the disc golf audience can relate to immediately. So stats are mandatory, stat Mando. We just smashed it together until it worked.
I love it. I think that's a really good thought process. I think everything behind Stat Mando sounds really well thought out. So all that to say, if you're listening right now, Dion's a smart guy. This is why I brought on the expert. So with that being said, we're going to go into the bracket now, Bracketology, for the Tour Championship this week. And we have an opinion, say what you want about the rest of the foundation opinions, but now we have somebody who is thinking things out correctly. So we're just going to go through, now that we've established the credibility, we're just going to go through here, and, we'll start with FPO and then move on to MPO. And the FPO, if you're listening to this on Thursday, there may have been a few more things that advanced, but as of when we're recording this on Wednesday, the FPO play-in has just finished. So we're going to have to go based on that. I'll just double check. Yeah, Haley King and Jessica Weiss have advanced from that play-in. So we will start with the quarterfinal round and move from there. So if you're kind of listening, you can kind of follow along. But basically, we're going to predict each round and kind of, decide on the reasoning and go from there. So, Dion, we'll start with the quarterfinals. Obviously, Jessica and Haley will be added into this round. 4 players are going to advance. So if you're just to kind of start out, these brackets, or whatever you'd like to call them, I mean, they're brackets in a sense, are really hard to predict because we're playing disc golf. I don't know. Are you familiar with Nevin Park where they're playing?
Not familiar. I tried to catch some of the FPO play-in coverage earlier to get a sense of the course. I am familiar with Charlotte and Charlotte disc golf, so I think if you just take that at face value, it gives you a good clue of what Nevin's is about.
Right. Yeah. I was able to play Nevin last summer, and it is very much your standard Carolina golf. It's woods, what you'd expect. So I think that's kind of how I approach this. But with that being said, that means there's going to be obviously a lot of randomness and difficulty making these predictions. So I'll just kind of start with mine, and then we'll move on to your prediction for the quarterfinals. So for my quarterfinals, and I'll give my face value rationale for my picks, but I've got Missy Gannon, mostly just based on her play as of late. I think she's got some good momentum. Ella Hansen, that one was kind of a gut pick. Natalie Ryan, another one based on recent play, some success, obviously at Maple Hill. I kind of look to recent wooded events. That was one of my strategies. And then Evelina Salonen, I picked. I like her forehand at this course, and I think the forehand is useful. So that's my quarterfinal picks for FPO.
I think you're on track with the forehand being a valuable weapon, and there's a few players in this group that are going to be able to put that to use. And let's just make sure that I'm looking at this correctly. So of all the possible players, if I just list them off, you double check that I'm in the right spot.
Okay.
We've got Natalie Ryan, Sarah Holcomb, Evelina Salonen, Maria Oliva, Valerie Mondahano, Missy Gannon, Ella Hansen, Kat Murch. And are we also adding in Holland Handley, Emily Beach, Jessica Weiss, and Haley King? Is it
correct?
That's the whole group?
Correct.
And we only get to pick 4?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Pro Tour, you are brutal. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say I agree with the Missy Gannon pick. Big Money Missy is a real thing. She averages 2 spots better in her event finish when the winner of the event cashes $8,000 or more.
Wow.
So she plays better when there's money to be made.
Okay.
So Big Money Missy's in. I'm going to go with someone who I've toured with and traveled with, Sarah Holcomb.
Okay.
She is really consistent, and if she is even playing close to her capability, she's going to avoid a lot of bogeys on the wooded track and be able to slice and dice the course. So I'm going to give her a nod.
Okay.
I'm going to also give Haley King the nod. She had a lot of time off this year, had a good throw pink event. pushed in the play-in this morning, and I think that momentum is going to be good for her. So I'll give it Haley King. Oh my gosh, now I got to cut. Oh my goodness. There's so many players I like on this list. I'll tell you what, I'll critique your picks to help me come up with mine. I don't think Ella has the consistency to avoid big numbers on the course. I love her game. I'm really excited to see how her next season goes, because it felt like things were starting to click there at the end of this year. Same with Natalie. I feel like the distance is fantastic. The play as of late has been great, but I don't think the mental fortitude and the consistency in the woods is there just yet. So I'm going to go a little bit of a dark horse pick, and I'm going to take Maria Oliva on this one.
Okay. All right.
She's from Texas, can slice and dice in the woods, has real consistent release. So if she's playing well, she might be the one to slide in. So I'll go Maria on the fourth pick.
All right, I like that. So now we'll move on to the semis. This is where things get real interesting, because now we're adding in Kristen Tatar, Paige Pierce, Katrina Allen, and Owen Scoggins to the mix. So now just throw the top 4 players right in there. So then you'll also have Missy, Holcomb, King, and Oliva to pick from. I obviously had Missy, Natalie, Ella, and Evelina to pick from. My picks to get to the finals were Kristen Tatar, for obvious reasons, best player in the world right now. Owen Scoggins, I like her putting and her consistent forehand in the woods. I have Natalie Ryan and Ella both moving on out of my previous picks. I don't know how I feel about the Ella pick still looking at it. It was more of just like kind of a hunch I had. Natalie Ryan, I still feel like there's enough momentum there, but those are my 4 picks.
Okay. This is so hard.
Yeah.
and I'll just comment broadly. I know I say it all the time on like League Night and some other shows, but the FPO depth of talent has just exploded this year. To me, as just sitting in the fan chair, watching FPO has become almost more entertaining than the MPO side, because there's so many names I can just pop off and win an event. Okay, Kristen, she's in. Owen is in. I think those are the right choices there. Owen has that deadly forehand, and if it's woods golf and you're out of position, you're relying on the putt, and Owen's the best in the game at that right now. So, okay, so now I have to decide if I'm going to pull people forward or keep Paige and Kat in. I'm going to give Haley the nod again. For whatever reason, even though she won a major earlier in the year but's had a tough year otherwise, I think she's going to show up this week. So we'll give Haley the nod, and then holy cow, that is so tough to decide.
Yeah.
Let's ride the dark horse pick. I think I can respect that you go with your gut with Ella. I'm going to go with my gut with Maria. So I'll do Kristen, Owen, Haley, and Maria.
All right, and then that leaves just one pick left to make, and that's your winner. I feel like this is almost the easiest one, because I went with Kristen, best player right now. It made it the simplest choice for me.
Yeah. All right. So my head says Kristen, my heart says Owen. Owen has had a magical season, just an absolute magical season. She's second or third in the Mando power rankings right now, and just has been crushing and won a major in the FP40 division. So let's give her a Cinderella ending to the season, and I'll give it to Owen.
Okay, I like it. As soon as I made the Kristen pick earlier, I thought I almost saw it in my head, like Owen holding that giant check, and I was like, you know what? It almost feels right that Owen would take this one down.
This is an unconventional event, right? It's not standard stroke play with 4 rounds, so I think she's a gamer, and she could pull it out.
Yeah, what do you think about the format before we move on to MPO? Like, what's your opinion on it? Because my opinion on the format is, I think entertainment value to the max. I think the entertainment, is incredible. Watching it is going to be very fun. The logistics, as far as the advantage given to the top players, I don't know, because no matter what happens as a top player, you are going to have to play somebody who has more momentum than you do. So that's where it kind of gets a little bit iffy. But what do you think about the format overall?
I think the format's great. It's gotten a little bit better over the years, a little bit more clear and a little bit easier to follow. I don't think it's done evolving yet. Yeah. Buys are a tough thing to contend with, because disc golf can be about rhythm.
Right.
And coming in cold with a lot of money on the line is usually harder than coming in on round 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is a unique challenge. I don't necessarily want to see that go away, but I do think there needs to be some adjustments made. And then from the fan perspective, the way that it's presented, this is where I think Mando is actually really excited to work with the Pro Tour and sharpen, what these head-to-head matchups look like as things get down to the wire.
Yeah.
Maybe some live fan site assistance so you can see what's at stake and follow the what this putt means sort of narrative, because it's really hard to pull that off live in real time. So if we can get under the hood a little bit and get some of that data piped into an interface for either the commentary booth or for fans to watch, then it's going to make it a little bit easier to show the horse race playing out.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. All right. So moving on to MPO. Things just get even crazier. There's an additional round at MPO because of the larger field.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the round 1 just makes me sick, like trying to pick 4 of them. So as we're filming this, the play-in starts in about 10 minutes, but they haven't done anything yet. So just picking from scratch, my play-in picks were Big Germ, the Charlotte connection, the forehand. There's the magic in the air. I think a lot of people like that pick. And then I also have Thomas Gilbert. And my reasoning for that was I feel like he is a really good round 1 guy. I feel like I see him pop up near the top of leaderboards early in tournaments, and to get out of the play-in, he only needs to play 1 good round. So those are my 2 picks for the play-in.
Nice. So shout out to Seth Day. He's a pro out of Utah. Part of the secret of the success for Mando is we actually have an online community, and we have a tier of participants called Stat Elites, and these are just super badass guys and gals who have the knowledge of the sport and usually have some aspect of their professional career where they're working with data and statistics. So Seth put together the head-to-head matchup for the entire play-in crew. Jake Hebenheimer has a winning record against every player he's going against except for Albert Tom.
Oh man.
So I'm gonna just lean into that, and I'm gonna pick Jake.
Okay.
And then for the second pick, Colling's a good bet. I like the Charlotte connection there. And he's motivated, and he had a couple of great rounds at US. But I am going to actually give it to Chandler Kramer. And I think the rationale there is he's got the forehand, so he can, I like to use the term slice and dice because that's what it feels like you're doing when you're in the woods.
Yeah.
And you're throwing forehands, you just cut
He's
through
got
gaps.
the forehand rollers, too.
He's got the rollers. And it's his first Pro Tour final, and sometimes that works for you because you don't have any of that baggage or emotional connection. You're sort of just I don't think he's young and dumb, but you're naive enough not to be worried. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to go Hebenheimer and Kramer, some dark horse picks here.
Okay, all right, I like it. All right, so now into round 1. This is the group of death, basically. This is absolutely brutal to look at. This is almost like a close your eyes and point type pick.
This is so brutal.
My picks. So for this one, I started with Drew Gibson. And the difficult thing with this too is tiebreaker goes to the better seed every time. And in a round like this, where there's so many players, that is actually incredibly. It's a stroke head start. So I like Drew Gibson because he's got a high seed. Also, though, I think he feeds off this event. We kind of saw it last year. He all of a sudden was like the greatest putter you've ever seen, and that's the weakness of his game. So, hey, that's where the stats get thrown out the door. I'm going to give you the emotional response, basically. I think he feeds off the event. I think he can have success in the woods. He has the ability to throw really good hyzer flip lines without the forehand. So I like him there. I have Alden Harris. I think Alden has really slipped under a lot of people's radar, but he's consistent. He's actually very consistent this year.
Yes.
So I've got him. I then picked Brody, and that was definitely a heart pick.
Sure.
I am contractually obligated to make that pick, so that was my reasoning for that one.
You almost made me spit out my Starbucks on that.
No, honestly, though, we actually filmed with him yesterday in the woods, not at Nevin, but another wooded course in Charlotte. And he had a hyzer flip forehand working for him extremely well. He was
good.
throwing it very well. So I was like, okay, I can pick Brody with at least some conscious. And then I have Linus Carlson because I think he's another under the radar guy that people are kind of forgetting about. So those are my 4 picks.
All right. Good picks. I like the rationale. This is ridiculous. Holy cow. There's so many slingers in here. Okay. Great call on the higher seed getting the advantage. I'm gonna take a higher seed guy just for that. I'm gonna predict that Hamas shows up.
Okay.
So he's going in. I'm gonna predict that Bradley Williams executes. If you're wondering who has the best form in disc golf, it's Bradley Williams.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you're a young player and you're listening to this, mimic that guy. You're not going to be disappointed. Okay, then we've got some gunners in there. Holy cow. Nicholas Antola, he almost took down the U.S. He's only 20. I think that the emotional roller coaster of almost winning and coming in second almost dooms you for the next event. So he's probably got so much emotion coursing through him, it's going to be tough to execute. But he certainly could. I mean, holy cow, kid's talented.
Yeah.
Barsby's a shredder and loves woods golf. He's going to throw it in, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to go past all those guys, and in the number 30 spot, I'm going to take Marweed, best putter in the world. And I always like to carry somebody through from the play-in because history shows that that's a likely outcome.
Okay.
And between Hebenheimer and Kramer, let's go Kramer.
All right. I like it. Okay.
Oh, God, they just get better and better every round.
I know.
Good Lord.
Yeah, just wait till we get to the semis. So now into the quarters. You'll have Hamas, Bradley, Marweed, and Kramer to pick from, and then we're going to pump in a whole host of really talented players, the 9 through 16 seed. So for my picks, I'm going to take Corey Ellis, a guy who's just been knocking on the door. I like him in the woods, can putt. Even though putting's been a little bit more streaky towards the end of the year, it's still there. I'm also going to take Kevin Jones in this group. I think he's had a bit of a downhill season, but I do think he has a good history at this event in general. I think he can get some momentum here and finish the season strong. I'm going to pick Isaac Robinson. Obviously, the play at Idlewild, I think he's a killer in the woods, very underrated player. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab Alden as well. I think he's kind of my momentum guy, so I'm gonna bring him in.
I like the Alden pick on the momentum. I think that's the right way to do it. Kyle Klein just announced 4-year extension with Discmania, so he just got paid. So that's on his mind. He's not going to have to get paid this weekend, so I'm cutting him.
Okay.
Ellis is a good pick. I'm going to copy that. Okay. He can shred. He's got both throws, and if his putt's on, then good luck to everybody else. Conrad's had another sort of medium year for himself. It would be great to see him become a factor at this event, but I think you're right. I'm going to go with Isaac Robinson, and my momentum guy. Oh man, let's see. I mean, Clemens is in there too. Gosh, he's had an incredible season.
Yeah,
13 in the points standing. He's got the lefty. I'm gonna go Clemens just for the lefty love.
Okay.
That makes a difference if he can throw backhand with better spin control. Yeah. Right. If everyone else is having to throw a flip up forehand, might have to go to a driver. You tend to see some bigger skips. So if he can flip up something on a slower disc and get the same flight, but it's going to stay close to the basket. This is what we saw from Nathan Queen last year, right?
Yeah, true. So, that is true.
I'll do Clemens, and then I'm going to take Marweed.
Okay. You like the putters. You like the good putters.
Yeah, on the woods it matters. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and here we go into the semis, and this is where it really becomes not fun. Because we're gonna throw in the top batch, the 1 through 8 seed.
Good God.
Now it really becomes a dart toss. I've got Calvin Heinberg. The name just kind of sticks out to me. I think after the frustration last week USDGC, he's going to be wanting to, get that win. I picked Gannon because I'm not typically one to pick somebody coming off of a win like that.
Yeah.
However, Gannon's game is just kind of invincible, and he doesn't really get phased by stuff like that. He's been consistent all year, and there's just not a problem with his game. He just hits lines, he makes putts. It's hard for me to pick against him. Then I'm going to go with Simon. And Simon this year has kind of been up and down, but historically it's like he'll win, drop off the face of the earth for a couple events, win again. This also seems like an event that he could feed off of. So I like Simon here. And then I'm going to go with Corey Ellis just because I think with a little bit of picked up momentum, he's just been so solid.
Good choices. I like the rationale. I'll start with your comments about Gannon, and I too would not pick somebody coming off of a first major win, right? That's just too much of a high to ride.
Yeah.
But he also has that sort of young and naive,
Right.
streak going for you, where he might be thinking like, I'm the best player in the world. I'm going to go out here and win the tour final, right? And really believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him the nod. I'm also going to drop a stat on you that hopefully everybody is aware of at this point. But Gannon is averaging 7.53 as an average place across the 2022 season at Elite and Majors.
Yeah.
The lowest average place, meaning the best average place of everyone.
Oh, wow.
So he's the most consistent player on tour, undoubtedly.
That's insane.
So I'll give you that pick. And then we're going to go down to Joel Freeman.
Okay.
That's the one. He's the one. Yep, he's got the forehand. He is a bit streaky, but he's had a great year. I mean, 7th in points sort of proves that. And he's one who if he gets in his head, it can go south real quick. So I think the bye situation helps him, right?
Yeah.
Because he's just coming in. He's got one round to do it. So if he can stay focused for 18, then he's super dangerous. I don't know if I can root against Matt Oram in any situation.
I know.
The kid is... Well, okay, he's my age. We're all old. We've been playing for 20 plus years, but he is so damn good. All right, I'm taking him.
Okay.
And in the finals, I mean, am I crazy not having either Ricky or Paul or Calvin? I mean, is that just insane?
I don't. In the semis, I don't think there's a bad pick at this point.
That's true.
It's one round of golf, anything can happen.
Okay. Well, for the same reason that you took Calvin, I'm going to take Paul. He took 3rd at US, right? He was just on the or 4th.
4th, yeah.
Yeah, because Calvin came close. He had all those birdies at the end.
Yeah.
Paul doesn't like losing at majors, and historically speaking, after a major, he shreds. So
that is
I'll
true.
take Paul.
That is true. I would say, like last year, he almost won this event, and that was after coming off of a win in a major. And this year, I know he wanted that U.S. title. He was in position to win as well, so he'll definitely be hungry. I would assume. All right, well, going to the finals, I ended up picking Simon. This one was another, I feel like if Simon makes it to the finals, that'll be enough momentum for him to win. But also, it's a really tough one when you got one card of just insane players.
Okay. I went with Owen on the FPO, who in my opinion is the most fun player to watch, period.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Matty O on this side, and we're going to just say most fun wins this year.
That would, that would just be poetic because all year long he's been another one that's super consistent, knocking on the door, but just hasn't been able to get the win. I almost feel like the Tour Championship does have that effect sometimes where you almost get you do get players where they've been there all year and then they have this opportunity to finally close out with and get a win, and it does happen. I've definitely seen that before, but we'll see. We'll see how it unfolds. I'm sure as we're already doing this, my play-in picks are probably both 5 over par. It's honestly, I don't know what UDisc is giving away for a perfect bracket, but I'll be impressed if anybody does it because, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I don't know if Mando has the stat, but what are the percentages got to be to get a perfect bracket? It's
0.
Yeah,
It won't happen.
I was gonna say it's got to be very, very low.
It's nearly impossible.
That can be your tweet for today. Just do the math and tweet out what are the. It's a 1 in 10 million or 10 billion chance to get a perfect bracket or something.
Yeah, but that's a lot of math to work through. I'll just skip to the answer, which is it's not going to happen. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, that's the bracketology. You know, this is as good as it's going to get. Stat Mando, you know, throwing out the picks. So if you're listening and you have a better bracket, and you know, I'll be curious, like, to, you know, if anybody makes it out of like the first round perfect, just tweet it at me. Like, I really honestly want to see it to believe it, because it just seems like it's such an insane format. Like every single round, just all those good players just getting pumped right into there. And it's like, oh my goodness, like, well, what the heck? But yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of entertaining disc golf to provide the finale to the season. Anyways, Dion, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I forgot to mention, I did find out like earlier this year that I have a Stat Mando profile in the head-to-head, which I never knew was a thing. I think I just like for fun searched my name on there, and I saw her profile, and I was like overjoyed with that. So thanks to whoever got me into that thing.
Yeah, we initially selected players who were sort of top in the game, and then we also put in a bunch of people that we thought would just be fun for fans to see. So yeah, awesome. I don't know if you're still in there or not, but we definitely we experimented with that. Well, you know, that was the first module we released last year, and we haven't done any. We've been busy since then. We haven't come back to that one, but we have, you know, another 20 different data points to throw into that head-to-head and bulk that up. So you can expect to see some iterations on that soon.
Well, I am going to search my name and find out. So just know that. Let's see
for
here.
Sure.
I think I was removed.
It's possible. We had a couple of code releases recently.
Wait,
so
that was in the head-to-head. I might be in the player profiles though.
That would make more sense. We gave player profiles to almost everybody. So.
No, I got purged out of Stat Mando.
Hey, after this, I'll get you back in there.
Okay, that'd be great. You can get my one career win in there. I think it's going to be important. All right. Anyways, Dion, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was great getting your perspective. I think Stat Mando is great. I think you guys have awesome positioning within the sport to do some big things, and I look forward to seeing what's next.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Trevor.
All right, and thanks once again to Dion for joining the show. That was really cool to get to go through those picks and kind of get a perspective of somebody who looks at the game from more of a numbers standpoint. It was also really cool hearing about Stat Mando and their business model and all the plans they have. I think it's a really unique company and certainly provides a lot of great things for the sport. So make sure you're back here next Thursday. We're going to have another great guest, and we'll see you then.